All right, I reckon we'll get started now, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining us and welcome to SUCE's fourth and final industry talk for this semester. We're very fortunate to have Noah, Kathy and Reardon from Jacobs here this evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and talk to us tonight. We really appreciate it. Just a reminder to everyone, we have a link in the slide, a link to a Slido in the chat where you can post your questions for our Q&A session at the end of the interview. So please post all your questions there and upvote your favorite questions. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. So guys, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves and what projects you're currently working on?
Yeah, so I'll start. I'm Reardon, and as you already know, or some of you would know, that I work as a geotech engineer at Jacobs, a grad. Recently graduated from UCID, so that was in the middle of this year. And what projects I've been working on? So I've been doing a foundation for a site investigation for a light structure out in Western Sydney. And on top of that, I've done slope stability for slope remediation in the Blue Mountains and also for the M7, M12.
So hello everyone, my name is Kathy. So I'm currently working at Jacobs building structure team. So I'm not UC graduate, but yeah, I recently joined Jacobs earlier this year. Current project I'm currently working on is the campus waters. So basically it's a joint venture between Jacobs, Downer and Ventia. So it's kind of like our client is a Sydney Water. So it's kind of like 10-year program for delivering design, construction and maintenance and facility management stuff for the Sydney Water customer in the North regions.
So, hey, my name's Noah and I'm a grad as well. I recently graduated from UNSW about, I don't know, 8 months ago. I currently work as a geospatial consultant, which isn't necessarily an engineer, but a lot of engineers work as geospatial consultants as they work very closely with civil engineers, water engineers, transport engineers, and yeah, many other types of engineers throughout Jacobs externally and internally. I guess recently I've been working on a variety of different projects. I think one of the main ones is our weir out in Western New South Wales. So I've been designing a weir there, basically in like a concept design stage for different inundation levels. I've also been working on a couple of solar farms and wind farms in Western New South Wales, and some flood mapping and flood modelling within southern New South Wales. So that's just some of the projects that, yeah, that I've been working on quite recently.
Awesome, that sounds fantastic. So we'll move on to the next question. What makes working at Jacobs exciting?
I'll start with this one. So as you probably heard from what we've been saying, we've been working on these wide range of projects. And so these can range from small projects such as foundations for me, and we have larger ones like solar farms, and to even larger projects like, motorway upgrades. And also, so this is what keeps it exciting, because we can do small projects and understand, all the facets, while if we work on a larger project, we'll be more specialized in the geotech side of things. And in addition to that, so also as a multinational company, right, we can sometimes work on overseas projects. So you might have heard about Neom and the Lion, and also the entertainment district of Qiddiya. Yeah, so because we're a big company, we can also work on that. And that's what makes work at Jacobs exciting. So yeah, I guess feel free to add, Noah and Kathy.
Yeah, I think the one is a pretty exciting one. And also I'm currently working on a campus waters. So I'm dealing with lots of existing structures like back to 50 or 70 years ago. So there were like different standards or different, even hand sketches, different real layout at the time. So it sort of like really challenging and even really innovative, because you need to come up with different solutions regarding, different site restrictions. Yeah, that's all sort of challenge tasks we need to dealing with, as engineer.
Yeah, I think that covers it pretty well. I mean, the variety of different projects that Jacobs has. Yeah, so like I guess you can work on anything from like water to transport to like electrical, to just I get the craziest stuff, and that I think that keeps us engaged and keeps it exciting. So that's probably one of the greatest reasons to join us and come work here.
Sounds awesome. Yeah, it's really cool that there's such a variety of different things that you can do. So which current project at Jacobs interests you the most and why?
Probably a new one, even though I'm not really working on that one. So yeah, that's a really fancy job, but not in Australia. Yeah, and also I was also working on one of the Western Sydney Airport, the tender package before. Yeah, that's also really exciting because you get to know different precast structures for the underground tunnel stations. I think, yeah, there's plenty of, opportunities, whatever you want to work in the rail industry or water industry or even transport, different discipline. In Jacobs, there will like lots of opportunities if you want to have a shot in. Yeah.
Just add to that a little bit. So what projects that interest me? Unfortunately, they're not in Australia because Jacobs is a multidisciplinary company, right? So we work on a lot of things. The things that interest me are more overseas. So like the Artemis, you probably heard about the Artemis program, how they're going back to the moon. I think that's pretty cool. And also they also have another project where they're cleaning up nuclear waste from Fukushima. So those two programs, because they all deal with the environment and space, they really interest me.
Yeah, I guess adding on to that as well. I mean, a lot of the projects I have are confidential, and I think that's what makes it interesting as well, because a bit exciting not being able to know what you're working on. But yeah, the huge range of stuff that like I guess we've mentioned before is pretty exciting. And I guess you can look online and see what variety of things they do overseas as well, not just in Australia. And I think that sort of diversity adds an interest to the grad program and why Jacobs is so interesting to work for.
That sounds awesome. Particularly the Artemis project. That's really, really cool. So does Jacobs provide any undergraduate or graduate programs for students?
Yeah, so there is an intern program, and unfortunately they've literally just closed. So hopefully you all applied. But there's an intern program for 12 weeks over the summer. And usually it's really possible to try and stay on and work throughout the semester. So if you're in your penultimate year or even third year or second year, and you can work for 12 weeks over the summer break, and then working 1 or 2 days a week during the university semester, that's something that's very encouraged. The 12-week program, I guess, you get a deep dive into the projects that Jacobs works on. I know when I worked on one major project on a power station. I know some other interns have worked on lots of little different things. It just depends on the workload and what's available. So I think that's pretty cool. And I think moving onward to the grad program's a 2-year experience. And again, you're working on just heaps of different projects, variety of different areas. And so after you complete your intern program, you streamline into the grad program. 2 years, and there's also a grad network. The grad network organizes events every so often. So I know recently there've been lawn bowls and after work drinks and stuff, and it's a really good opportunity to network with the different grads, whether that's in your sector or in different areas. And I see like lots of transport people, lots of rail engineers on a regular basis. So it's really useful to deep dive into those areas, understand what they're doing, and even maybe work on some of their projects as well. So it's a really great experience. You get to meet huge amounts of people, both internally and externally, and I think it's a great way to to kickstart your career and move forward on something you really want to enjoy doing.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, sounds like there's a lot of opportunities there. So the next question would be, what advice would you give to a civil engineering student looking for work experience or an internship?
I'd say that you want to show that you have passion in what you want to do. So it's really easy as a uni student who really wants a job to get into the spray and pray mentality, where you just want to apply for a ton of companies. But what you really want to do is you want to focus your applications to the person that's on the other side, so that they can see that you want to work that job that you applied for. Because whoever hires you is essentially, they're investing in you, and obviously they would want someone that they would like, that likes what they do, rather than somebody that just wants to make some money.
Right. So I totally agree what Raiden suggests. So it's actually worth trying, different opportunities. When you are in year 2 or year 3, his company culture is actually quite important. And even some people, they get used to work with contractors. Some people, they would like to sit in the office and work with other consultant and engineers. So, and even for the different, from sizes, like, tier 1 consultant or even middle tier company, I believe the working culture are slightly different. And also just for the interview stage, I think just remembering it's always a 2-way interview. So it's an opportunity, like the interviewer, get to know you, but also you also need to get to know, what's the company like, what's the opportunity, involved in that company. So just don't afraid to speak out at each interview opportunities. And also when you prepare for the interview, just for people just like me that are not really good at storytelling, I would just recommend using a STAR map model to illustrate a few examples before your interview. So, and also do the company research definitely before the interview.
Too easy. Awesome. So I suppose the next question would be, is what skills, so like technical or soft skills, do you believe are the most important for success in the civil engineering industry?
I think within the civil engineering industry, it's not just the skills you learn at uni. So I know, especially for me at UNSW, we just sort of most of the time would be doing calculations, standards, a bit of project management, pretty, mundane, pretty, it gets pretty similar. You just sort of follow what was given to you. And I think when you start working in the industry, you actually need to be able to communicate with basically everyone, whether that's clients or stakeholders or other colleagues. So a lot of the time you'll be writing reports, calling people, especially project managers, have to be able to communicate super effectively with everyone involved in the project. I think a lot of the skills you learn at uni, for example, I know when I was at uni, we had to do like 30-page mathematical calculations for concrete and steel design. You never do that in the office. You never do that sort of thing. You pretty much run it through a program or something very, very basic, very simple. No need to, know the knowledge. It's great to have the base knowledge, but most of the time you'll not be doing any sort of hand calcs. So it's really important that you're able to communicate with people what your findings are, make clear assumptions, and yeah, be able to communicate that, because a lot of the time, if you're dealing with someone and they cannot distinguish what they want, it just, it's a waste of budget, it's a waste of time, and it just, it drags on and on and on. So it's really important that you be able to, talk clearly and effectively to those, especially those who are, project managers, especially those, working on site as well. I think that's probably the most important thing that you can learn. So yeah, definitely. I know writing, I was hopeless at writing at uni, and you think as an engineer, oh, maybe I don't have to do it, but being able to write clear and effective communication, whether that's in emails or in a noise report, it doesn't matter. You need to be able to tell clients what you found and what your understanding is. And sometimes using basic, clean, simple English is the best way to do that without using complicated jargon, especially in emails and especially in reports. So I think that's something that I encourage all engineers to do. And seek out feedback as well is something else that I think we should all be doing, whether that's when you hand in a report for uni or even at your current job, understanding what you've done right and what you've done wrong, I think is probably the most important thing. And I think that alongside communication skills is something that will get you far, especially in the intern program and the grad program and just throughout your career. So I can't like say enough. Please practice your writing, practice your oral communication as well to, make things clear and succinct for those.
I just like to add like one little thing. And also, one other soft skill that you probably want is just the willingness to learn. So, we come out of uni, we think we know everything. And, you've been doing all these hard units, these electives, and you've been piled up with this technical knowledge, but a lot of it isn't used. And so it's just important to, to your supervisors and seniors, because, they've been in it longer than you, so they know what they're doing, and just to be willing to absorb everything that they have, so that you can be like the best you can be.
Yeah, awesome. An add-on question to that would be, when working in a team in the industry, what is the most important thing to consider?
I guess when you're working in a team, I guess the most important thing to consider is probably, everyone around you. You have to consider yourself, because you're all working together. I don't think I've ever heard of a project where you're working alone. You always have to do something with someone else. So, I think that goes back to communication as well. If you can't, talk to that person or the people you're dealing with in the project, I think that's a huge problem. So yeah, that's probably my answer to that, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think my answer would be pretty similar. Communication is key, especially for geotech when we do projects. Sometimes you'll be contacting the drillers, and sometimes you'll be contacting the service locator. Other times you'll be talking to your supervisor, and you just need to be flexible with your communication. So you really need to know how to talk to each of them, and know that some of them also, you come in green as a grad, right? And then they have like 50, 60 years of experience too. Like, you do need to know how to talk to them respectfully, and sometimes, listen to the feedback that they have to give. And that's what will give a successful project.
Sounds fantastic. So we have a question for Noah, and that is, what does a geospatial consultant do, and how did you become a geospatial consultant?
Yeah, so I guess the geospatial consultant is a bit of a weird one. So not many people probably have heard of the geospatial consultant, which is fair enough, because I barely did before I started. I know at UNSW, but I don't know about UCID. They have surveying degree. I don't know if they do subjects with surveying at UCID, but geospatial is sort of like the basis behind a concept design and more of a consulting more than construction sort of area. So we do sort of like the preliminary design basis. So a lot of the time we'll get, a new project will get, someone will have an idea about building a new project, and the geospatial team will have to, find the constraints analysis. So understanding what exists on site. So a lot of data before you dig data, environmental constraints, existing infrastructure, and find out sort of like what, so for example, the pipeline, what the best route that would take, or maybe, for example, a new transport network, what the quickest route is for certain trucks to take. So we sort of come in before the actual design has started, and we're sort of doing it conceptually how it would work. So a lot of the time we would do sort of web applications to influence the design. So we have an online map, and people would come and understand what exists on site and try and build the design around that. We also do a lot of automation. So a lot of CAD to different formats, manipulating data in certain ways. So it can be easier for surveyors, easier for engineers to understand what's going on. And a lot of the time we just do a lot of analysis as well. So understanding like a certain amount of people in a certain area doing something. So a lot different from classical engineering of construction or structural design, but more sort of preliminary sort of conceptual sort of work, which is, I guess, the baseline for consulting. And I guess I came to be a geospatial engineer due to my background in surveying. So I previously worked as a surveyor So I understand sort of how geospatial information came to be. And then I had a degree in engineering as well, or was studying a degree in engineering. And I think those two sort of overlap and I guess formed the interest in, geospatial data, geospatial engineering, and how you can sort of communicate with engineers and with designers and then bring all the information together in a easy to understand way. So I guess that sort of piqued my interest in, how I became a geospatial consultant.
Sounds really interesting. Just another question to add on to that, Noah. What would you say is the most important technical skill in your role as a geospatial consultant?
I think technical skills, I mean, we do use a variety of different programs, and I guess that's considered a technical skill, but I would say like a lot of these things you learn on the job. So I know, for example, at uni, I didn't learn or know all the programs that I use now or any of the technical skills. So I think like regarding technical skills, I think being able to, understand and learn how to use specific programs or specific applications for the job you're using is most important. So I guess, the technical skills of being able to adapt to different situations. And I guess basic sort of mathematics and statistics is quite important. But I think technical skills are useful, but I think there is a lot more things that engineers or even me for a geospatial consultant need. And I think that's comes back to communication and what Reedon said is ability or a willingness to learn and, move forward and understand different things and data and so forth.
Yeah, thanks. That's really cool. So we'll move on to Kathy. And Kathy, what are the responsibilities of a structural engineer? What is it like practicing structural engineering?
So I guess the responsibility is just ensure the structure doesn't collapse and doesn't deflect too much. Yeah, that's I think what we are learning, at uni, like talking about the strength criteria and even the deflection criteria at service limited states. So normally the day, like a structural engineer, is we normally just dealing with modeling, and also we're using like some software to check the member capacity to ensure we are actually choosing the right sizes for the members. So normally the type of structure we're dealing with are the steel structures in reinforced concrete. For most of the time. We write report, but it's not, we're not really frequently dealing with report, but sometimes we need to sort of come up with, design methodology or design brief. Just to save, folders. I think that's, for the daily life, because so normally for the hand calc and also for the model build up, I think it's just important to think of the reasons, like how to build up the right models, because I think it's going to be pretty easy to build up model, but not the correct models, because you need to think of like lots of reasons, how to set up, like even the footing connection, whether you are setting up the fixed connection or pin end connection. So there were lots of details that you need to think about. So I would say the most important skills is just attention to details at this stage, at the graduate stage. Just one small issue may result in, a lot of dramas. So just think of the reasons and also maintain a regular reporting with your supervised engineers. Because Jacobs has a hybrid work environment, so employee can choose whether you like to work from home or work in the office. So sometimes your supervised engineer may not come in the same day. So, but I think it's a good habit, if you report to him on a regular basis to ensure to let them know that you are, on the right track to run projects, to ensure you actually can meet the project deadlines and also to meet the project budgets. I think that's all really important, I think, for graduates.
Sounds awesome. So Reedon, what is it like practicing geotechnical engineering and what aspects of a project are you involved in?
So I'll first do a little bit as a grad. So pretty much as a grad, we focus more on the site investigation side of things. And that means that we are on site before anything is done. So let's say if it's construction, it'll be before construction, remediation, before anything is fixed. We'll go have a look first. This helps us understand what is happening under the ground. So if we want samples, we'll dig test pits, so they're like a bigger but shallower hole. If we want to see what's actually under the ground, then we'll do core logs, and we'll do like a thin cylinder, and that'll help us to show like the rock layers that are under the ground. After this data is collected, right, then we have to prepare a few reports so that we can summarize, what we've found to make design easier. And also the samples are usually sent off to a lab to be processed. And so that's pretty much the site investigation phase of things. But after that is done, then we can use that data and we can give a concept design. So concept design is like what needs to be done, and you just do a quick design, right? Not too detailed, don't have to design all the small features of let's say a retaining wall. It's just a really quick concept. And then this information is continually refined, and this will head towards the detail. This should mature into a detailed design phase where it should become ready for construction. So pretty much to summarize, as a grad, we do more of the practical, the field work, but as you grow older and with more experience, you should turn into more of the design things. And also in our department, we are split kind of into two. So we have geotechnical, and then we also have tunnels. So if you want to do that, you can also transfer across horizontally.
Sounds really interesting. So I have a question for all three of you, and that is, how do engineers of varying disciplines work together to deliver a project?
Yeah, I'll just start off. So any engineering project we know is complex, right? And one discipline may not deliver all that's needed. So as you all know, for example, let's say a bridge project, that before anything would happen, there's already roads there. You need like transport engineers to provide studies to see if it works in the first place, if it actually alleviating the congestion or what's already existing there. Then for site investigation, you'd want to look at the soils, you want to look at contamination, so you need a different set of engineers with different expertise, and they will want to see if it's good to build on, and also environmental services, so you can minimize disruption. And finally, you would also need structural engineers, right? Because you want the bridge to stand up. So to coordinate this combined effort, there would be in the office, there'd be many face-to-face meetings, emails and calls, and also not to forget the project managers, which have to work tirelessly to tie the project together.
Yeah, I think Raiden pretty much covered everything. So for me, as a building structure engineer, so normally the architect will design a space to meet all the client's needs, and all the engineers' major responsibilities just ensure the design is safe and also meets all the appropriate building codes. And talking about engineers, so that might involve a structural engineer or mechanical, electrical, or the service engineer, and even a geotech engineer, because they need to design the footings. So for example, if we need to design a switch room, like for my role, I need to design a roof, for concrete roof. I need to understand how much load and take from the electrical engineer, because we need to put a cable ladder into the roof. And also when we design for the footings, we need to understand what's the soil capacity, the barrier capacity. So that's all sort of information we need to, have a solution from other disciplines. And normally that's gonna be achieved through, rounds of the coordination meetings between different disciplines.
Yeah, that's really covered it very well at the beginning. And I think from my perspective as well, you just have to work with everyone from the get-go. So if I'm designing like a new water pipeline, you'd be talking to water engineers about different types of pipes they're using. Then you'd be talking to environmental planners to see what environmental constraints are in the area, talking to civil engineers about the design, talking to transport planners about roads and whether or not you need traffic control. You're talking to council for planning, or even RMS for roads. And then you're talking to the client as well, to understand if they're actually happy with the design. And then as well with just a variety of different people from different backgrounds throughout the project. I'm sure it gets delivered successfully, whether that be biodiversity specialists. Sometimes you're dealing with heritage specialists as well. This is mostly from a concept design phase, whether or not it can be approved or not before the sort of structural stuff happens. And as well, some speciality fields like groundwater engineering is also sometimes geotech as well. I'll be talking to understand, yeah, the if there's different types of rocks on site or even soil constraints and so forth. So I think there's just, as Reardon said, you're just from the get-go talking to multiple different specialities, different types of engineers, and you got to communicate with all of them.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear about how all the different disciplines do work together and kind of share their expertise with one another to deliver a project. So the next question for each of the three of you is, how do you balance work and personal commitments?
So the quick answer to this is working from home, because that removes the commute. But it's just, I guess, prioritizing time for each things. So, when you finish work, you try to, give that time after work for yourself and not to think about work. Sometimes if a deadline is coming up, it might be hard, but as long as you make sure that, if I want to go for a swim or something, that you make sure you put that time in no matter what, then you can get a bit more balance, even though work might dominate 40 hours of your week. And other things, so you just got to keep a conscious decision. You're going to make a conscious decisions to, just do other things outside of work. And I think that's the biggest, for me, that's the biggest thing to keep the work-life balance.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like a bit hard when you just work from home, whereas you still need to maintain work-life balance. For me, initially, I used to sort of, when I just meet a big deadline, I used to work very hard, like to, 9 o'clock, something like that. But later on, I realized it's not a good working habit. So now I'm just sort of force myself to shut down the laptop like 5 or 6 p.m. every day. And just stop think about work after, the working time. And also, I think Jacobs have really working cultures. Like if you, for example, if you really had a big deadline, you have to do this before certain day, you might start, you may study or work late, but you can take another few days off after that, but you still need to sort of negotiate and, talk to your manager to let them know what your workload is. So I think as a person, if you think of your workload, there was too much on your shoulders, just speak to your managers. I think they will just definitely help you out.
Yeah, I think at Jacobs especially, the work-life balance is pretty good. I've been told off for working after 5 before. But when you're done, you finish at 5. If your work doesn't get done, you just do it the next day. If you don't get it done the deadline, you just push back. I mean, it's very important that you have a life outside of work. I think all of us would do, because as soon as you're working 8 to 5 with an hour break, it's very flexible. I know people, I've received emails at 1 a.m. I've received emails on a Saturday. I've received emails at so many different times of the day, which sort of encourages you to work whenever you want. But as long as you're getting deliverables in, it means that you're getting the job done. So, I mean, it's quite easy to go to a doctor or go out for the night at Jacobs, because, you're not expected to work overtime and nobody would expect you to anyway. So I think, as well, just being able to, log off at 5, don't worry about it. You're going to have very healthy life and work balance. And I think, that's probably the most important thing as well at a job, being able to have a social life. And it's definitely possible as long as you just shut off at 5 and leave the work that you haven't done for the next day.
That's really awesome to hear. So I suppose the next question would be, what's one thing about the civil engineering industry that has surprised you?
Something that surprised me about the civil engineering industry is the fact that, actually, just with the projects we've been working on, or not me in particular, but the ones that we've taken up, for the Lion and Kadir, how they've moved completely to, they've skipped mega projects and they've gone straight to giga projects. So it's just how the civil engineering industry have really they've taken, we used to do, we do big projects, but now we do these huge projects. Has never been seen before, right? The line is a 170 kilometer long, it's a 500 meter tall and 200 meter wide, I think, structure. It's just, it seems absurd, but it's just, for me, that's kind of interesting how we've gone in that direction now, and how, even though I guess it's very controversial, whatever is in there, it's just, it is still trying to be, how do you say, at the forefront of technology, right? So they're trying to remove cars off the road. They're trying to make it 100%, I think, powered by renewables. So that's what kind of excites me about the civil engineering industry going forward.
So we might move on to the next question, unless anyone has anything else. Oh, we'll move on. Awesome. Okay, so the next question is, what future projects is Jacob planning to undertake, and what excites you about the future of the organization?
So once again, I don't have too much about the future projects because we're only grads. We don't know too much, about what the higher ups are planning for us. But yeah, as I've already mentioned many times, the Lion Akadir are projects that are, as we speak, they're relocating people that work in the UK and the US. They're relocating them to Saudi Arabia to really ramp that up. In part, if we're talking about Australia and part of the transport division, then we have the M5 upgrades, M7, M12, and the Great Western Highway, which we are looking to be on. And so these will be future projects. And obviously the Sydney Metro, the different tunnel packages that need to be delivered. So I guess what excites me about the future of this organization is the fact that since COVID, right, COVID has been quite negative, but also in the workplace, it's given us more flexibility. So it gives us this opportunity to work with teams overseas and even communicate with them and work on projects that they in their own hometown at just our fingertips. So I think that's pretty cool.
Awesome. So the next question is for all three of you. What are your personal aspirations for the future as a civil engineer in the civil engineering industry?
Okay. So I'm on mute. Okay. So I used to work on the contractor side. Just one of the infrastructure projects. Being a project engineer before, and currently just working as design engineer. So I saw as a civil engineer, there were lots of work you could be undertaken, just depending on what you're passionate about and what your personality is. I think for the graduate, especially in Jacobs, I feel like everyone was really supportive, because even everyone actually invited to the lunch and learn opportunities. So you may just come across, the knowledge and the lesson learned sessions from other, different sessions and disciplines. So yeah, I think as a structural engineer, as a graduate, I might just want to focus on my personal technical stuff development in the initial few years. But after 5 years, there were lots of career paths you can choose. So some people might choose to become a design manager, or even a PM, or even some people just might want to focus on the technical development side, becoming really professional technical engineer. So for me, actually, I'm just a grad, so I'm not too sure what's going to happen in the futures. But for now, I'm really happy, where I'm currently working with. And also I had the opportunity to expose to different people in different disciplines, even overseas. I think that's the fantastic thing about the Jacobs, which is the multinational company.
So to continue on for my career aspirations, so as a grad, just want to become, I guess, more experienced and understand, get a bit more technical know-how because sometimes, you're sitting down there and you look at your manager and like, a few other blokes that are there and they're just talking parameters straight out of, they've just seen, the design brief and they already know what's going on, right? And I just want to kind of get a bit more experience. I can have a bit more things in my arsenal so that I know how to tackle problems. I'm not looking too much about where to go yet, because I know that my manager, like, as we do more work, I'll probably find a direction. I'll get more experience. I'll know what I want to do later. And I know for a fact that our managers are very supportive on what we want to do. So let's say you say, oh, Andy, I don't want to do site investigation anymore. I want to do more design. And Andy he'll actually make sure and he'll accommodate that we can that I can do design in the future. So I don't have to worry too much about where I'm going. And at this stage, I'm just trying to pick up all the knowledge that I can get.
I think from my side, I probably want to do more into rail design. Currently, I'm only doing mostly water design and road design, and not so much into rail design. And I think that's something that is really important for the future, especially with a lot of metro work and rail infrastructure being done in Australia. And I think as well from that, being able to find solutions to automation within rail design, whether that be sort of like it's being able to make the design process more efficient, whether that be through some sort of automation which develops or designs gantries or tracks or drainage for rail in the future. But something with that, and I think as well at Jacobs, you have your manager and lots of colleagues who are there to support you in that, in what your aspirations are, and as well as grads from other teams who can show you how to do certain things. And I think that's probably my goal in the future, to reach out to those and try and get more involved in the design process for rail infrastructure projects.
Sounds awesome, guys. So we'll move on to the Q&A now. Thank you so much for answering those questions. So I think we have Liv's going to read some of the questions that these students have asked from the Slido.
Thanks, Tom. Yes, I'll just share my screen. Can everyone see that? Yep. Okay, so the first question is, did any of you guys go through the internship program? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what would you recommend about it? Like, maybe if you could just take us through what it was like. What was the best thing?
So for me, I guess the best thing about the internship program was you just get to work on like really cool projects. I mean, we worked on the Sydney Metro when I was as an intern, and it's just one of those opportunities that, you feel like as somebody who knows nothing, you should be working on these small projects, but because Jacobs work on such large projects, they put you on them, and it just makes you learn really quickly. And you can learn like a lot of different things about a project. So if it's just a small project, I would only learn, let's say, one thing about it, like the site investigation. But because it's such a big one, I learned about, the modeling, the detailed design, and also the site investigation. I learned about more things. And even though you might be wondering, I'm an intern in such a big company, maybe, it won't feel too good. It's too big of a company, but the managers, they really treat you very well. And it feels like a much smaller firm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think the Metro projects are very awesome at the moment. Noah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, 100% with Reardon there. The internship program kind of almost throws you into the deep end with the project side of things. Obviously, there's support. You have a buddy, you have a manager, you have other interns and grads you can reach out to. But I think, the diversity that you will be on and the sort of significance of the projects. I know I worked on the Metro too. I don't know if it's the same as Reardon, but and as well as a power station in Western New South Wales. And I think that's like to power versus rail, completely different technical skills needed. So I think the responsibility you have as an intern is pretty pretty crazy. And I think that's what makes the internship program really good. And I think to add on to that as well, just a network of people that you're with sort of, you get to know some of the best engineers in Australia or the world even, and work with them both internally and externally. You get to meet grads and interns, have a good time with them. And I think it's just a really good experience to be part of that.
Yeah, that's very cool. And do you stay on the same project or do you get to move around a little bit?
I move around. I mean, it just depends on a lot of things. So I know I've worked on projects that have been handed over, but a lot of the time, if you're on a project, you will probably stay on it for as long as it goes on for, but it will depend on a lot of things. I know some projects go quiet for a bit and come back, depending on the client. I don't know about Reid and you, but I've been on projects and been off them. It depends on the situation, client's billability, a lot of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Wait, sorry.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, just to add to Noah about jumping around in projects. Yeah, in the internship program, I did jump around a bit too. I was pretty much, that just helped me experience more things. So yeah, I worked on Sydney Metro for the majority of the time, but I also jumped around on bids, some bid that I think we didn't win in the end, but it was something about tolling. So thankfully it didn't go through, I guess. But yeah, so you do work on a lot of things and you do jump around.
Okay, awesome. So the next question, is your current job what you expected when graduating?
Because I did my master's sort of like with Zoom last year during the COVID period. So why just sort of apply for the graduate program? I just choose a discipline. I'd like to undertake in the next 5 years. But it's really hard to say, whether this is because that everything gonna be different when you really work on one role, because that could be lots of things that's actually different from what you saw before. Like for me, I was thinking, when you're doing the member design stuff, that probably only one solution. But the current job we're just working on, for example, we are dealing with the existing structures. So if you talking to different like engineer, more senior level engineer, they may come up with different solutions. I think that's probably the nature of engineering. No unique solution at all. So sometimes it might be just beneficial. If you stuck on one thing, you're just looking for help from other people, because people may, everyone's experience are really different. They might just work at different company before, work on different, industry project before. So they might just bring up some brilliant ideas which you might not think of before. So I think that's just a learning process you have to adapt with, in your probably first 5 years, I think.
Yeah, of course. Noah, do you want to answer that question as well?
I think Kathy answered it pretty well.
Yeah.
That's covered my bases as well.
Anything to add, Raiden, or you're good?
Just if it's what I expected is the job is what I expected. Yeah, pretty much, except for the fact that I got to go regional. So that's pretty cool. I like that. So I like that unexpected bit. Yeah.
That's good. So next question, how important is it to use AutoCAD or Revit? Do you use it in the industry much, or is it only draft? And I guess that's a bit of a yes or no question.
Revit is coming huge in my part. AutoCAD is huge in drafting, and being able to manipulate data, I guess, is probably more important than being able to use Revit or AutoCAD. I know because of the 3D capabilities of Revit, it's very important for visualization, which I do. AutoCAD, I don't like AutoCAD. I just sort of move it into a format I like. So I think being able to use the data that's given to you and then being able to manipulate it is probably more important than being able to use it entirely. But I think it will depend on where you are. I think maybe Kathy or Rita may use more of that, but I certainly will not be touching AutoCAD, but definitely be touching Revit files.
Fair enough. And Noah, you mentioned before that with the technical skills, you kind of learn it on the job. Is that what has happened for Revit with you, or did you have prior experience with it?
No, I literally never touched Revit before I got to my job, and I think that's something that I'd like to reinforce. So thank you for bringing that up. Is that a lot of the skills you learn at uni, like you will not ever use again. So it is really useful to be able to adapt to like different environments and different skills. So I think a lot of us will, especially in the future, will come across things that we haven't seen before. And I think being able to, understand and learn how to use them is probably more important than having the set in technical skill that you bring to the job.
Yeah, for sure. Kathy, Braden, do you have anything to add to that question?
So for my work, I think knowing that AutoCAD and Revit is definitely a plus, but it's not mandatory. It's normally in the engineering team, they do have 2D drafters and also the 3D BIM modelers. They will handle that work. But before that, normally what engineers will do, they will using a Bluebeam to produce the sketches. So normally we're gonna using just a Bluebeam sort of, to draw what we saw for this typical design. Normally the software we normally use for structure design is just a space gas or microstrand or even robot to build that model. And sometimes you might get used to use tests. It's like, advanced Excel spreadsheet, you can just calculate different thing, based on different items. That's sort of the normal software we normally dealing with, in the daily life.
Okay, and I'm assuming like similar to Noah, you also learned most of those skills on the job?
Yeah, I think it's just you get a skill on job. You don't need to be learned before you actually get a job. So yeah,
that's good to hear. Did you have something to add, Reid?
Yeah, so with AutoCAD, I don't really use Revit, but we use AutoCAD and we use Civil 3D. It's not really about like the technical, if you can draw X, Y, Z, you can draw it nicely. It's more about like just extracting data, as Noah said, out of the thing. So sometimes we get like geological cross-section. No, we don't have the cross-section yet. We get the survey data, right? And we have to extract the section from the Civil 3D, and then we can draw a geological cross-section. And that's what we use it for usually. So with AutoCAD, about learning it, I know there's some lectures at UC do, you have to learn AutoCAD, like it's becoming essential. Yeah. Not really, like it's not that hard to learn on the job. If you really want to learn it, like you can definitely get it down pat, especially what you need really quickly. So it's not that necessary, right? Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So the next question is, what do you love about your work? Which I think we already touched on this a little bit, but why should someone consider geotechnical or geospatial or structural over other fields?
I guess I'll go with that. So for geotech, if you like your soils and how random it can get, like how different each time you dig a hole, right? It's always going to be a bit different to the other time you dug the hole. If you like that randomness about things, then definitely go for geotech. Other things that make geotech good is if you like not being in the office all the time. So if you want to go regional, come to geotech. Yeah, so that's why I like geotech. And also the fact that I guess this with all engineering, you just, after you worked on a few projects, you probably drive around the city like, hey, I've worked on that, right? That's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard that's a bit of a common thing, like talking to other industry reps and like, I built that. So yeah. Kathy, do you want to answer that as well?
Yeah, I think if you like, I don't know, year 3 or year 4, there were some courses regarding steel structures and also reinforced concrete structures for that typical assignment. If you're loving doing that sort of stuff, I think you probably can choose a structural engineer, because instead of like hand calc, like what they said before, we might using the other software to do it. but they were like sort of similar stuff, I think. Yeah, and also Jacobs is a really large company, so there were lots of opportunities. I mean, internally, even you can choose relocate to the other countries, or even you can choose other disciplines for it. Because I met some people at Jacobs, they're actually doing part-time in structure team and also part-time in the sales team. Yeah, that's just plenty of opportunities within Jacobs. So I think for a graduate, I think it's probably hard to know what do you want to do. I mean, lots of people change their career directions in the next few years, which is not a surprise. But like I said before, in Jacobs, there were like lots of opportunities. You can just choose whatever you want, for your future career path.
Yeah, that's really good to hear that Jacob can facilitate that move into wherever you feel like. Do you have anything to add, Noah?
I think a lot of engineers sort of have a set idea of what engineering is. It encompasses a whole lot more than just, I know at UNSW, I don't know too much about UCITS courses, but you'd have like structural, concrete, steel, like project management, and that's pretty much it for design. But like there's a lot more things in engineering than just those basic sort of ones you learn at uni. Like, for example, there's people who do like things from the client side, like director of projects who deal with clients who are engineers. There are engineers who work on proposals and don't really do any structural stuff. There's engineers who work on environmental constraints. There's engineers who become bankers and stuff. So I think a lot of people need to like sort of look outside the box. For example, I'm a civil engineer, but I'm doing geospatial, and I didn't really know about it until like because of surveying. But I think there's a lot of jobs that exist out there which aren't just the basic sort of geotech structural like design things. There's a lot more to engineering. I think when we look at these, we need to understand what they do and work with them. And yeah, a lot more than just the basic things you learn at uni. And I would hope everyone would reach out and try and see and find out what they do.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's why we have you guys here today. Hopefully the audience has learned a bit. So that kind of concludes the Q&A section. So I'll hand back over to Tom to wrap the event up. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Liv. So yeah, that concludes the fourth and final industry talk. I just wanted to thank Noah, Kathy, and Ridden so much for coming and for your time and for giving us some insight into Jacobs and the civil engineering industry as a whole. So thank you everybody for coming. And yeah, that's all for now.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.